This is the free audiobook of Elemental Power. If you haven't heard the previous chapters, you'll find the link to the playlist in the description below. Book 1, Shattered. Chapter 27, Inconveniently Ill. We heard voices coming from behind the hut as Nanu led us to the back lawn. Ambius and Rock were basking in the afternoon sun, smoking their herb and playing a bowling game. Silver was there also, lounging in the well. Worm's telltale mound of churned earth was at the edge of the vegetable garden, but he wasn't emerging in the warmth of the day. "Ha ha!" Ambius laughed, seeing us. He ran over and shook my hand with both of his so hard I felt my teeth rattle and my skull nearly exploded. "You've made it, my dear! You've made it!" he sang. He turned to Glenn and twinkled at him, shaking his hand enthusiastically as well. "My gallant elf, well done! You are a true and noble prince, the perfect protector for our princess." "You're a prince?" Peta asked, confused. "It's a long story," he said, pulling from Ambius's grasp. "Fire warrior!" Ambius cried, gripping Peta by the shoulders. "Welcome to the East. I'm Ambius, but I suppose you knew that. Here is your master, the most honorable Rock." Rock came ambling up to us, his giant salamander grin evident on his red and black tiger-striped face. "Well met, Peta, and welcome to the waterman who's captured your heart," he said. Peta blushed, her cheeks going red. "This is Marlowe. You met him once before," she introduced, prodding Marlowe to step forward. "It's an honor to see you again, Lord of Fire," Marlowe said timidly. "You need not fear me, waterman. I will not harm you. Welcome and congratulations. I promise to provide a safe place for you in my palace, should you ever desire to visit," he rumbled. "Thank you, sir." Ambius turned to Boreas then. "My old friend and most valiant general, and the lovely Aura as well. Welcome." He clapped the wind sprites on their backs in friendly greeting. "Where is—" Ambius started, but stopped, his wrinkly old face slackening in sadness. He took off his pointy hat, revealing a full head of frizzy white hair with a permanent crease from the brim. His watery eyes stopped dancing, and he looked at Glenn with remarkable sorrow. "I am sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Glenn said. "It is your loss as well. My condolences." Ambius nodded and put his hat back on his head. This seemed as good a time as any to inform him of the issue at hand. I stepped forward and lost my balance, crumbling to the grassy earth. My ears began ringing, getting ever louder. Glenn and the others were there at once, all talking over one another, asking me if I was okay. I held up a hand to shush them. They finally stopped jabbering, but the ringing persisted. "Ambius, a wind sprite that's joined forces with the warlord, is on his way now, sent by the demon to kill Glenn tonight. They think the only way to defeat me is to kill him. Can you keep him safe?" "Absolutely," he said, peering searchingly into my eyes. "But why have you told no one about the hag? She has cursed you." Glenn gave me a withering glance. I smiled apologetically, with a wince of pain. "Can you help her?" Glenn asked. "Perhaps. Let's get her inside," Ambius said. The elementals each took one of my limbs and carried me like a corpse into Ambius's cottage, laying me on the little cot. Nanu followed, looking sincerely worried for once. I could still see clearly, but my hearing was fading. The others were speaking in low, hushed tones of worry. I heard little of it. I only saw the leaping of the fire in the hearth. Ambius sent everyone out but Glenn and Nanu. Nanu hopped up beside me and climbed onto my chest, his piercing green cat eyes searching mine. I blinked. "What?" I asked. Nanu just kept looking into my eyes. I heard Ambius speak from near the fire, but his voice was muffled as if he was speaking in another room. "What happened?" he asked. I looked away from the cat's eyes and fixed them on Glenn. He was worried. Why hadn't I told him? "It was the day you said goodbye to Taryn, the day we met the gnomes. I went walking and met a nasty old gnome woman, Maka." Ambius dropped his ladle into the bubbling cauldron over the fire. startled. He may have hissed, I couldn't tell. She had me follow her to her hole in the ground. It was dirty, smelly. She showed me a black quartz, said it was stolen. Then she said it would find me, and when it did, beware. Then I ran. Ambius moved over to me with a quickness that belied his hunching back and wrinkled skin. Did you drink or eat anything there? No, I wasn't about to accept anything from her. Nanu looked closer. His little pink nose almost touched mine. You ate something that day. I did, but it was much later, in the home of Georgie the gnome. But he was so nice. His family sang and danced for me. Ambius pulled his hands down his face with a look of defeat. How long ago? Glenn answered. Almost 17 days. Tell me, did they have an image of you? Ambius asked. Glenn groaned, going pale. Yes, many. Was there an owl? Did it touch any image? Yes, I said. Wood or stone? Wood, I said. Why? So that I know how to perform the counter curse. My dear, you have been careless, Ambius chided. Glenn moved to a chair and sat hunched over the table, his head in his hands. I'm sorry, I didn't know. But more importantly, what are we going to do about the assassin coming to kill Glenn? Most importantly, rest while I make the elixir. It won't take long. Nanu lay on my chest, purring. The vibrations of it thrummed pleasantly through my ribs, and I lifted a weary hand to stroke his silky fur. Glenn just sat with his head in his hands. I thought I saw his lips moving silently in prayer. I prayed a bit myself, wordlessly. Ambius worked in a whirlwind of concentration, mumbling to himself and diving into his magical chest for bits of things which he threw into the cauldron. It began to bubble, the brown liquid inside thick like gravy. He gave his ingredients one last look over, tasted the brew with a finger, and smiled. I saw him pour the globby stuff into a wooden cup and walk over to me. Drink this, he said. Glenn turned and watched as I drank it down. It was hot, too hot. But I wanted to feel better so badly, I didn't care. It tasted terrible, like ashes and snot. Nanu hopped down as I spluttered, the foul stuff dribbling down my chin. Glenn stood and came to my side. I could see his eyes had gone pink with distress. I'm sorry, I said to him. It seems drinking that was punishment enough. He looked into the cup and wrinkled his nose in distaste. That and the weeks of sickness, I said, still spluttering. He chuckled, patting my hands and moving to stroke my hair. I wiped my mouth, and the ringing in my ears began to subside, little by little. Looking at Ambius, I asked, what exactly happened to me? Maka is a witch, that much you likely gathered. She sent the owl to set a befuddling spell upon your brain and illness upon your body. The gnomes you encountered in the woods were innocent enough, I think, but she used their food and drink to poison you, something she could not have done unless they had images of you. In a few more days, you would have died. Glenn and I both shuddered at that. Thank you, Ambius. Now, what about Anvin? When you feel well enough to rise, come outside, he said, and left us alone in the cottage. Glenn, I don't know why I didn't tell you. I'm sorry. Never walk off by yourself again. I won't. Please stay with me. I need to sleep for a few minutes. As you wish, he said. I slept. I was in the strangest place yet. Everything was metallic. The walls curved as if I was in a submarine, and the Greys were walking around without robes on. Their skinny, androgynously naked bodies walked around me as if I wasn't there. I must not really be there because one passed right through me. Maybe this was a vision, not a dream. That's right, said a voice to my left. It was Gable again. Oh, hello, Gable. What's this? The Creator thought you should know. What is this? I asked again. This is the truth of the matter. A door, really a large section of the metallic wall, opened to our right, and two of the most beautiful beings I'd ever seen stepped into the room. The gray slaves parted before them, bowing in reverence. One of the beings looked like a man, the other looked like a woman. They had white hair and glowed brightly. Both had green eyes and pale opalescent skin that shimmered as they moved. They were taller than average and athletic-looking, even in the flowing white robes. They walked across the room to the opposite side, the one to my left. They reached up their hands and touched the wall. A hidden panel slid down into the floor. Inside was a large incubator. They signaled for a gray to come and lift something out. I heard a baby's cry. The womanly being took the baby from the slave and held it closely to her breast, cooing to it in a musical voice. The baby squirmed and gurgled. It was used to the woman. The man-like being smiled upon them both. Gable said, "Those are fallen angels. I believe some in your world call them Nordics. They have in their arms the infant form of the warlord." I gasped. He was born here? Yes. That man, that being, is his father. Angelic women cannot reproduce, so they kidnapped a woman from Earth to impregnate. She bore the child to them. They care for him now, raising him here in this place beneath your oceans. Another door opened, and a reptilian creature stepped into the room. The smell was nauseating. He was green, with humanoid form, but had a serpent's head. He stood upright, but his limbs were obviously prosthetic. He moved his bionic arm to salute the others. A bifurcated tongue searched the air for a moment. "I have the transportation arranged. Are you ready to put on human form?" he hissed. The man-angel groaned, his disgust for the idea plainly expressed. "If we must." They transformed into humans then, the process taking less than a few seconds. They were still remarkably beautiful, no longer glowing, and now of average height. The child in the woman's arms squirmed. He had coal-black hair and bright green eyes, the fierceness behind them already evident. He was larger than he should be, with musculature evident beneath his tender skin. I wondered why they had created him this way. Gable answered my unspoken thought. "They did this to thwart the will of God on your planet. They've done this often, and all throughout history. Anyone so blatantly evil as to commit mass genocide or any other unspeakable atrocities is most likely one of these halfling creatures. The fallen are banished, bent, and tarnished. So they settle in God's creations and infect the worlds like plague. Your planet is one of the most popular. They greatly admire the women of your world. They lust after them still," he explained. "Holy crap," I said, unable to take in all the information he was giving me. I saw the reptilian fellow also transform into a plain man dressed in good taste. The clothing was old-timey, but I guessed it would be. This was over 1,000 years ago. The woman wore a dress of excellent quality. She was obviously meant to be a noblewoman. The man wore a tunic with tight leather pants. The reptilian fellow wore the same, but of a lesser quality. He was to be their servant. The baby wore a crude cloth diaper. They left the room, and Gable turned to me. "They are going to what you call England, wealthy beyond measure. There they will raise the little abomination in the ways of the enemies of God. He will grow strong and bold, searching out the spaces between the realms, searching for an untainted creation to spoil. He will find ours," he said sadly. "I see. So the angels engineered him for this purpose?" "Anything to cause the Creator pain." "Why doesn't he just stop them? Why doesn't he destroy them all?" "They are eternal, like all his creations. He cannot simply destroy them. They must be judged at the appointed time. Until then, they heap punishments upon themselves." "Why did God want me to know all this?" "Because the warlord is on his way to kill you, right now." "What?" I went rigid with fear. "He sent Anvin as a distraction. He is nearly upon you." "What do I do?" I asked, beginning to shake, even in spirit form. "Resist him. The blood of these angels runs also in your veins. You have the power to defeat him. You simply haven't found it yet. The Watchers must be warned. They will help protect you. Go now. Tell them." I sat bolt upright and yelled, "Ambius!" Glenn stood sharply to his feet beside me. Ambius materialized in front of us, looking quizzically at me. "The warlord is on his way to kill me. I need your help." How do you know this? Glenn asked. Gable, he warned me in a dream, I said and shivered. We will be ready, Ambius assured me. He's nearly here, I said. The old wizard stood to his full height and stormed out the door with dark intent in his eyes. The Watchers would help protect us, but I had to figure out how I could destroy the demonic bastard. I was tired of being hunted, tired of running. Everyone kept telling me I had the power, but I hadn't discovered it yet. I wished someone would clue me in. It will be all right, Glenn said, sitting down on the bed with his sword in his hand. The knuckles were white, but the rest of him looked calm. The stabbing sensation in my brain had eased. I was almost back to normal. Slowly, I got my feet over the edge of the bed, onto the floor, and stood. I was shaky. Glenn held onto my arm and helped me take a few steps. Every step made me stronger. Marlowe burst into the room. I could see that the afternoon had become an ominous sunset outside. Everything was an eerie greenish orange, like tornado weather. Peta has captured Anvin. Come quick. If you enjoyed this chapter, please give it a like and/or a comment. And if you think someone else might enjoy the story, please share with them the first chapter. If you subscribe and turn the notification bell on, you'll be the first to know when the new chapter's released.